If you think you can't be betrayed by someone who once called you a friend, think again. If you've ever walked away in silence just to keep your dignity, I understand you better than anyone. I used to be the soul of a company. But on one autumn morning, I was kicked out of the very place I helped build. They thought I'd quietly disappear. But 10 minutes later, they realized the biggest mistake of their lives. My name is Ethan Marshall, 52 years old. I was the co-founder and chief technology officer at Bluecore Systems, a cybersecurity software company based in Chicago. For 15 years, I lived and breathed the lines of code and system blueprints I personally crafted from day one. I was never the stage-loving type. I let numbers, bug patches, and server models speak for my worth. And maybe that's exactly why they thought I was weak. That morning, I arrived at the office at 7:30, like every day. Fall in Chicago was turning colder, but I was used to the feeling of a warm coffee cup in my hand as I walked down the empty hallway. I had never been late to work, nor taken a single day off in the last 12 years. I had just finished checking the Cornet backup system when my phone rang. "Ethan, Logan wants you in the boardroom on the 24th floor at 9 a.m. Full board meeting." A message from Natalie, the assistant to the new CEO. I frowned. There was no meeting on the schedule. Ever since Logan Pierce took over as CEO, things had been rocky between us. He was 38, handsome, talked like he was giving a TED Talk, and always tried to modernize everything I'd built, using PowerPoint. 9 a.m. I stepped into the boardroom. All the board members were already seated. I saw Melissa Grant, the major shareholders rep, Logan's biggest supporter. Jared, the young engineer Logan recently hired, was there too, sitting by the whiteboard, looking eager like he was about to be handed something big. And then there was Logan, grinning like he just won an award. "Ethan, thanks for coming." Logan stood, straightening his tie. "I'll get straight to the point. After a strategic review, the board has decided to terminate your position, effective immediately." The room went silent. I looked up at him. 1 second. 2. Then turned to each board member. No one would meet my eyes. Only Melissa gave a faint smile. Logan kept going, his voice steady but clearly rehearsed. "You're a brilliant engineer, Ethan. No one's denying that. But Bluecore needs to take a leap into the future. Technology evolves every day, and frankly, we can't keep anchoring ourselves to legacy systems." I didn't respond. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I wouldn't waste my breath in a place where loyalty is seen as a barrier to growth. I slowly removed my ID badge and placed it on the table. Before walking out, I turned and said, in a tone barely above a whisper, but sharp enough to freeze the room, "Without my code, the Cornet system will shut down completely in 10 minutes. And no one, not even Jared, can restart it." I turned my back, opened the door, and walked out. Behind me, voices erupted. Urgent. Stunned. Quickly turning to panic. I didn't need to look back. I knew the countdown had started. I walked out of the boardroom as calmly as if I'd just finished a casual chat. But I knew exactly what was coming. In my coat pocket, my phone buzzed several times, messages from Natalie, then Jared. I didn't check them. I didn't need to. I already knew what they said. "System issue, can you come back for a sec? Maybe there's been a misunderstanding." I went straight to my office on the 22nd floor. That room, where I'd spent half my life, was still as quiet as ever. The hard drives on the shelf, the system architecture blueprints on the walls, the white ceramic mug that said, "Built, not bought," still warm. I opened the safe, took a few personal files, then closed my laptop. That was it. I didn't need anything more. As I closed the door behind me, I heard hurried footsteps down the hall. It was Jared, pale, panicked, sweat on his back despite the steady 68 degrees Fahrenheit office temperature. "Ethan! Cornet isn't responding. I tried logging in with admin credentials, even backup ones, but everything's locked." I looked him straight in the eye. "Calm. I told you. Without my authentication, the system shuts down in 10 minutes. Can you turn it back on?" Logan's freaking out. The board's getting restless. I placed a hand on Jared's shoulder, not angry, just clear. You're the one replacing me, right? Then this is your time to shine. Logan was pacing like a wounded lion. On the big screen, every Cornet subsystem flashed red. Connection timeout, authentication failed, critical process halted. Melissa Grant was on her phone nonstop, while the other board members started arguing. Logan, you said you had the system under control. I thought Ethan had handed everything over. I didn't know about any hidden kill codes. Thought? Mr. Raymond from the investment board snapped. Thought? You fired the guy who managed the entire system for 15 years just to shake things up. And now you thought? Logan said nothing. He turned to his assistant. Call Ethan. Now. I had just turned off silent mode on my phone. 7 missed calls from Logan, 2 from Jared, and a message from Melissa. We need to talk. Urgently. I didn't reply. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the ground floor. As the doors closed, I saw Jared still standing there, eyes pleading. Exactly at the 10th minute, Cornet shut down completely. All internal services, confidential data systems, partner accounts, went dark, like someone pulled the plug. Even the senior engineers were helpless. Jared pale and trembling. I think the core was encrypted with a kind of temporary self-destruct protocol. Meaning if it doesn't receive authentication within 10 minutes, the entire operation resets to security level 0. And who can bring it back online? Melissa snapped. Only the system's creator, Ethan. Logan clenched his phone, his voice tight. Call him. Offer whatever terms he wants. The assistant nodded. But just as she was about to dial, Melissa's phone buzzed on the table. A new email had just arrived, subject line in bold. Termination of strategic partnership, Ion Tech Ventures. Melissa opened it. Her face went pale. They just canceled the strategy meeting. Said the system's unstable. They will be reevaluating the entire agreement. Silence blanketed the room. A minute ago, they were smirking as they kicked me out of the very place I'd built. Now every single one of them, from the CEO to the board, knew. They just cast out the soul of the company for a fresh face. One that had no idea what he was running. I was sitting in my car, parked in the underground garage. No rush to leave. I had the window cracked slightly, letting the crisp autumn wind flow through the old leather seat, a feeling both familiar and freeing. The phone rang again. Logan Pierce. I let it ring until the 3rd round before answering. Not for dramatic effect, I just wanted to make sure he was really scared. Ethan. It's me. Logan. His voice was tight, but still trying to sound in control. I know things this morning got out of hand. Probably just a misunderstanding. Either way, we should sit down and handle this like adults. Would you be willing to come back in and help reboot the system? I turned on speakerphone. Leaned back into the seat. Eyes on the car's ceiling. The system crashed? I asked, already knowing the answer. Temporarily. Minor issue. Jared and the engineers are working on it. But if possible, we'd like you to reauthorize root access. I chuckled, not with spite, but because everything was unfolding exactly as I'd expected. I'm no longer an employee of the company, Logan. That's what you said, in front of the entire board. He was silent for a few seconds, then forced out. I apologize if my tone earlier was harsh. I truly appreciate what you've done for Bluecore. But the situation is critical now. The system needs to be restored before clients and investors find out. I said nothing. Let him hear his own voice tremble. Then I asked, And are you calling me as the CEO who fired me this morning, or as the man who needs me to save him from the mess he created? In the background, someone shouted, maybe Melissa, maybe someone from IT. The noise was urgent, chaotic. Logan exhaled sharply, like pulling at his collar. Ethan, please. Help me this one time. You'll have full control over the system recovery. No one will interfere. Just come back, and we'll set everything straight. I nodded, though he couldn't see it. All right. But not the way you think. 15 minutes later, I sent Logan a PDF. It wasn't a recovery key. It wasn't a technical manual. It was a rush consulting contract. $250,000 for one 4-hour session. Terms included: all technical decisions related to Cornet would be under my sole authority for the next 30 days. No restrictions. No objections. Less than 2 minutes later, Bluecore's legal department replied, "We agree. Please confirm start time." I returned to the building, not as an employee, but as an independent contractor, and the only person who knew how to bring the system back. Jared avoided eye contact when I walked in. Melissa gave a nod, but the smirk she once wore was gone. I said nothing. I simply requested to be alone in the main server room. 12 minutes later, Cornet was back online. Fully operational. No data loss. No major disruption. I knew exactly what I was doing. And they knew. I was the only one who could have done it. As I stepped out of the command room, Logan looked at me like he'd seen a ghost. "Thank you, Ethan." "Really, thank you?" I looked at him, one last time. "Don't thank me. Thank yourself, for reminding me that my value isn't determined by anyone but me." I left the server room in silence. Behind me, the looks of people still stuck somewhere between panic and relief. Cornet, the system they thought they controlled, was running again. But now, none of them dared lay a hand on it. In the boardroom, as the members murmured to each other, it was Melissa Grant, the one who smiled when I was fired, who spoke first. "We need to clarify this, Ethan. A company system can't be dependent on just one person." I sat down at the far end of the table, opened my bag, and pulled out a slim folder, old papers, neatly clipped in a leather case. I slid it to the center of the table. "These are the legal documents of intellectual property ownership for the entire Cornet platform, including architecture design, core code, and encryption algorithms. I registered them in 2010, before Bluecore Systems was even officially founded." "No way," Jared stammered. "The system's been fully integrated into the company for years." I nodded. "True. But integrated doesn't mean owned. In our co-founder agreement, the software I developed was licensed for commercial use by Bluecore. But rights to modify, expand, or transfer it? Not without my written consent." Logan looked like he'd just been struck speechless. Melissa snatched the folder and flipped through the pages. Legal seals, copyright office certifications, letters from attorneys dated back to 2011. The entire room sank into a kind of silence, one I was already familiar with. I continued, this time without raising my voice. "This morning, when you fired me, you all thought I was just another employee kicked out of an old chair. But I haven't been an employee for a long time. I'm the one who holds the core of this business." Right then, Logan's assistant rushed in and handed Melissa a piece of paper. "Confirmation letter from Iontech Ventures." I already knew this was coming. Melissa read quickly, but her voice stumbled midway. "Due to a critical system failure and the lack of clear access to the operational platform, we, Iontech Ventures, are indefinitely suspending all strategic negotiations with Bluecore Systems. We have contacted lead engineer Ethan Marshall to—" She stopped, stared straight at me. I nodded to confirm. "They reached out to me before I even left the building. And now, I'm in direct negotiations with them about licensing Cornet under my own name." Logan slammed his hand on the table. "Are you trying to destroy this company, Ethan?" I didn't get angry. I just looked at him the way you'd look at a teenager who accidentally burned down his parents' house. "I'm not destroying anything. I'm simply taking back what's mine. You chose to ignore me, to cut me out, and expected I'd keep working like a ghost in the system? Honestly, I was going to leave quietly. But you're the one who pushed it this far, Logan." Melissa clasped her hands together, clearly trying to contain the chaos. "We can negotiate. Ethan, how much do you want to transfer full ownership to the company?" I didn't answer right away. I checked my watch. It hadn't even been 24 hours since they fired me. I'm not selling. The room burst into murmurs. Melissa forced herself to stay calm. Then, what do you want? I stood up. I want recognition. And I want the right to choose, something I didn't get when I was dismissed like some disposable part this morning. I'm not here to destroy Bluecore. I'm here to show you, it was never fully yours to begin with. I walked out. No one tried to stop me. In my hands, the system they desperately needed. In my mind, a plan already in motion. And in their eyes, for the first time in years, there was real respect. You thought this was the end of the story? Not even close. I still had one final move, the one that would cost Bluecore not just their system, but their most strategic stakeholder. That afternoon, I left the Bluecore building as sunlight stretched long across the gray tiles. I didn't look back. Not because I didn't care, but because there was nothing left worth missing. 3 days later, I signed the biggest deal of my life, a tech transfer agreement with Caspian Dynamics, an emerging power in the industry. They didn't ask me to sell Cornet. They offered a co-development model, where I retained full creative control, and they provided infrastructure and resources to scale globally. I sat across from their executive board, not as the guy who used to work at Bluecore, but as Ethan Marshall, the creator of the platform every company now wanted a piece of. We don't want to buy the system, their CEO said. We want to partner with the person who built it. I only said one thing. I agree, on one condition, everything stays under my name. Meanwhile, across town, Bluecore was imploding in crisis. Within a week, 2 strategic partners withdrew. 3 major clients pivoted and signed with Caspian instead. They simply said, "We trust the technology, and the one who created it, not the ones who tried to own it." On the 10th day, I received a quiet email. No signature, just one line. CEO Logan Pierce has officially been dismissed. We hope we can revisit negotiations with you, Ethan. I gave a faint smile. Not out of spite, but because they were too late. I had given them a chance. They chose to cast me out. The headlines started to spread. Bluecore Systems loses rights to Cornet platform. Fired founder returns, not to save, but to rebuild with their rival. I didn't respond to the press. I didn't post anything online. I just worked. Day, night, nonstop. Cornet 2.0 was announced 3 months later, no longer just a management system, but an AI-driven, fully automated data chain platform. Something Bluecore could never build, because they only knew how to manage, not how to understand. One weekday morning, I happened to pass by the old Bluecore building, now converted into a bank branch. The logo was gone. No sign. No trace. I saw Melissa walking out with a few former execs. None of them noticed me. I didn't hide my face. But they looked away. Not out of shame, but because they finally realized they had lost the most valuable thing they ever had without even knowing it, a person. Back in my car, a message lit up from Caspian's team. European expansion project approved. Dutch partner wants you in Amsterdam next month. I nodded. This was just the beginning. I had once lost my reputation, my position, even my trust in the people I worked with. But in the end, I still had the one thing that mattered most. The true value of who I am. I didn't get revenge by destroying anyone. I simply let them see for themselves what they had lost. You think I've already achieved everything? Not yet. Behind success is an unhealed past. In the next part, I'll tell you the real reason I left Bluecore, and the personal life I had to sacrifice to get here. Because if you think I became strong because of what Bluecore did to me, not quite. I had already learned to endure betrayal, long before I ever set foot in my first boardroom. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, in a rundown house at the end of Clover Street. My father was an unemployed mechanic, always talking about dreams that never happened, always holding a bottle. My mother left when I was 8. She left one note, just a single sentence. I'm sorry, Ethan. You deserve a better life. I read it once, then hid it in a shoebox under my bed. Later I understood, she didn't leave because she didn't love me. She left because she didn't have the strength to keep fighting. I got through high school by coding after class, fixing neighbors' computers, and hiding bruises beneath my collar whenever my father lost his temper. The only person who truly listened was Claire Jensen, my classmate with amber eyes, who always sat in the back row with an unfinished sketchbook. We grew up together. I told her about my dream to build a system that could replace the tangled mess of traditional management. She just smiled. So one day, when it runs, will you name it after yourself? I said, no. I want to call it Cornet, because it's the core of everything. We had plans to leave Ohio together. I'd go to college. She'd apply to art school in Chicago. But that spring, my dad got seriously ill, and Claire received a full scholarship to a school in Italy. I chose to stay. She chose to go. No arguments. No anger. Just different choices. The night she left behind one unfinished drawing, with one line at the bottom. Don't lose the core of who you are. I still keep it to this day, pressed behind glass, sitting on my desk. It reminds me, no matter how advanced technology becomes, people always carry fragments that can never fully heal. When Bluecore betrayed me, I didn't fall, because I had already lost things that hurt far more. When they laughed in my face, all I felt was familiarity. The ones who had hurt me before didn't wear suits for the first time. Once, during an internal interview at Caspian Dynamics, someone asked me, "What do you think led to your success?" I answered without hesitation, "Everything I've lost." Because those very losses taught me. No one can take your true worth away, unless you let them. Reputation is something others give you, but dignity is something you keep. 1 month after Bluecore officially went bankrupt, I received a handwritten letter from Florence, Italy. No sender, just a slanted line of writing. "I saw the name Cornet in an article. You really kept your word. CJ." I read it 3 times. The first time, my heart raced. The second, my eyes stung. The third, I smiled. Some things can't be undone, but they don't need to be. Because if the past was a place of pain, the present is where I've used that pain to build something stronger. I once swore I'd never go back to the house on Clover Street. That place was the first cut. The walls soaked in yelling. The kitchen floor still held the memory of blood, from the night my father smashed a glass. I had run from that place with all I had. But nearly 30 years later, on a quiet early winter afternoon, I stood in front of it again, silent. Everything around looked smaller than I remembered. The roof was rotting, the wooden fence leaning. The "for sale" sign was worn, with someone having added, "Final," in red paint. The wooden door creaked open after 3 knocks. He appeared. My father, James Marshall, now a hunched, gray-haired old man with faded eyes. But I recognized him instantly, because that gaze had never left my memory. "Ethan," he said, as if unsure if he was dreaming. I nodded, no smile. Just stepped inside quietly. The house still smelled the same, cigarettes, cold coffee, and dampness. There was no blood on the floor, but I remembered exactly where it had been. We sat across from each other in silence for nearly 10 minutes. Finally, he spoke. "I know you hate me. And I deserve it." I said nothing. He continued. "I wasn't a good father. I didn't even know what being a father meant. But this past year, seeing you in the news, I kept hoping you hadn't erased me from your life." I clenched my hands, then released them. "I didn't come to blame. I just need to know why." He sighed. His gaze drifted far. "Because I was abandoned too. Your grandfather was a drunk and left. I never learned what love really is. Your mother, she wanted to break the cycle, but I wasn't brave enough." A long pause. "I thought keeping you close was the only way to make up for it. But I only made you hate me more." I didn't say, "I forgive you." I didn't hug him. Forgiveness is a journey, not a moment. But maybe in my eyes he saw something, because for the first time, he teared up. I left the house 2 hours later. As I opened the car door, he called out, "Ethan! That girl from way back. Claire something, she came looking for you. In 2012. I didn't know where you were, but I kept this." He handed me an envelope. Inside was a sketch, 2 kids sitting in the back row of a classroom, one smiling, the other focused on drawing. At the bottom corner it read, "I've never stopped thinking about you. If you found this drawing, then your core is still intact. CJ." That night, I returned to the hotel, opened my laptop, logged into Cornet. I didn't write any code. I just added one line in the About Us section. Cornet wasn't born from technology. It was born from people who had lost faith and chose to reclaim it. 3 weeks later, I returned to Florence, not to sign a deal, but to walk along a cobblestone path I once heard Claire used to visit. I don't know if we'll ever meet again. But I brought the drawing with me. And if fate allows, I'll give it to the one who held my core during all the years I had forgotten it. Everyone carries a past that can't be erased. But you can choose to live trapped in it, or use it as the foundation for something better. I chose the second. Thank you for staying with me till the end of this journey. If you saw yourself in Ethan's story, if you've ever been betrayed, broken, and still chose to rise, then don't forget, your true worth isn't in where you fell, but in how you got back up. What did you think of this story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. And don't forget to follow the channel so you won't miss more heartfelt stories about family, life, and what truly matters.